Hey there! Before we start, I just wanted to let you know that this episode is also sponsored by Urban EDC. And now, have fun listening to who actually is Urban EDC. Moin moin and a dear welcome to a new episode of Tim's Sprachnachrichten, or for you English-speaking people out there, Tim's voicemails. And today I have a very, very special guest, and that is Young-Soo of Urban EDC, formerly known as Urban EDC Supply, right?
That's right, Tim. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure, really. So, I don't know. We got started talking because of our good friend Falk, better known as EDC Cult on Instagram. And I'm really, really happy that we can talk for a moment now, because I don't know when it was. Shortly after I got into EDC, I had my hands on an F5.5 of yours. That's a collaboration between you and Jesper Voxnaes, right?
That's right. That's right. Yep.
And since then, I'm a huge fan of the knife itself, of course, because Jesper Voxnaes designs always work. I don't know, the dude has magic hands or something.
He's got the Midas touch.
Yeah. And yeah, since then, I follow you on Instagram, since I have Instagram on my own. And I'm really, really happy to have you here. And you as a person, you are an entrepreneur, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And you are also a podcaster on your own.
Yeah. So I do have a podcast. It's called First Class Founders.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's a little bit of it's on break right now because I just recently had a newborn son. And so
congratulations.
Thank you. And so I've been it's been hard to get some time to do the podcast. But I'm starting to share more behind the scenes stuff with Urban EDC on my personal Instagram account at Young-Soo Chung. And I also send out a newsletter too.
Of course.
Yep. And so if anyone wants to follow along, that's I'm going to be active on Instagram moving forward on my personal account at Young-Soo Chung. But yeah.
Oh, awesome. I always love when people share details on their Instagram accounts of their own business. Transparency is key, Yeah. For me, at least, as a customer, the more transparency the brand offers, the more I can connect with the brand, right? So
I totally agree with you. And, a lot of people actually think that we're a huge company or much bigger than we think. But it's really, it's funny. It's really just me, and I have, just a couple other contractors, working remote. And I have one US-based contractor, and that's it. And so it's like 4 people total, and it's a very small operation.
Yeah.
I don't know. People think that it's a lot bigger than it is, but it's primarily actually me. I write the emails. I do the captions for the posts. So
yeah,
that's something that people may not realize about Urban EDC.
So
is that
are you also the only person behind the Urban EDC Supply Instagram account, or
I'm the only person? Yeah.
Oh! So you're managing 2 Instagram accounts, 2 content creating accounts on your own.
Yes. So we have a videographer and a photographer who helps with the content on Urban EDC side, but I'm the one writing up the captions and kind of doing more of the fun, like, strategic stuff on Instagram. So he's not posting anything. He's just getting the videos and photos ready, and then I'm the one that chooses which photos to upload or videos and things like that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty much me and the photographer / videographer. He's amazing. I've been working with him for a long time now, and yeah, he just uploads stuff and then I will post it myself.
Okay, awesome. Oh, that's a quite a workload, right? If you are running a business.
Yeah.
and 2 Instagram accounts. You have to manage them. I mean, I know how much work it takes to create usable content. So that's gone for you because you have someone who produces the content. But posting and all this stuff always takes time, right?
It takes time. But I've the way that I think and operate, it's all systems driven, and so I actually don't feel like it's that much work. I don't
Okay.
know. I do a lot. I mean, I'm used to doing a lot of stuff, and so posting on managing 2 Instagram accounts. Like I used to have like 3 businesses running at the same time.
Okay.
So Urban EDC
wow.
is only one of the businesses. I have a couple other ones. I actually recently sold one of the businesses back in February. And
okay.
so that's kind of and so I'm used to being very busy. Let's put it that way.
Sounds like, yeah.
Yeah.
And your podcast, First Class Founders, is all about the business side, right?
Yeah, it's mostly business side. I mean, I talk about EDC and things like that, but I don't go into like blade steels or different materials. Like it's more like it's mostly business stuff. But I do talk about how Urban EDC got started and things like that, which we can also dive into more today if you would like.
Yeah, sure, of course. So if you out there want to take a listen, feel free to. The link to First Class Founders is, of course, in the description of this episode. So if you want to check out anything behind the scenes, I guess, behind the business scenes, business curtain of Urban EDC Supply, or more or less Young-soo himself, just check it out. And so let's start the interview now.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
After we got a little warm up here. So has EDC always played a role in your life?
Yeah, what's funny is this is like back in 2011, 2012. I started getting into just things that you like, just pocketable small goods. And I started getting more and more into keychain, flashlights, machine titanium pens. And
all
I started
all
the fun stuff. Yep. And so I started kind of going down this rabbit hole. And I think the knife community was, obviously was around, but I think the EDC community was just starting to grow. And so so I was working at a corporate job, and in 2015 I just started Urban EDC Supply, the Instagram account, and just started posting other people's posts with credit to them, and just trying to curate the best EDC that I saw online. And it was a really good exercise for me because I didn't know any of these makers at the time. I was just, I just knew a few, and I was able to discover new makers and, just kind of learn more about blade steels, what makes titanium so much better than, other materials, things like that. And then at a certain point I had like, let's say 10,000 followers on the Instagram account. That's when I realized that, hey, like there's a big problem that people have is that they don't know where to go for this stuff. And so they would discover a new maker and then they'd be like, okay, I want to get this thing. How do I get it? And then you find out that you can't really buy it. You have to like get on a lotto, or like you have to wait for a drop. And then it's just like, it's kind of a painful process. And then also like a lot of makers are not very tech savvy. And so like their websites don't really work that well. It might go down. Like there's a lot of pain points to getting the actual item in their hands. And so I thought, hey, why not bring all that together on one website so that people don't have to search around. So I will go and discover and curate the best everyday carry gear that's out there.
Okay.
And I'll bring it into one place so that people don't have to go searching crazy, corners of the internet to get this one thing. I will bring it to them. And so that was kind of the genesis of the idea of this, Urban EDC Supply, which is the original kind of concept idea of this retail shop.
Okay, so everything started as a retail shop, or did you already have those collaborations? You are now featuring such a wide variety of different makers and brands.
Mm-hmm.
Was that also part of the starting idea?
In the very beginning, and a lot of new entrepreneurs can attest to this. It's very challenging. You're going from nothing to something. It's like a birth of a new thing. And so a lot of makers that I reached out to, they just ignored me. They didn't know who I was. I mean, they could have thought that I was trying to scam them, right? And so it was challenging. You got to build up a reputation. And so, in the beginning, like I was from afar, like let's go back to Jesper Voxnaes. From afar, I saw him and his designs, and back in those days, he had the little creatures, so like the snailer and the these bottle openers that were like crazy, all the rage. And I just thought, like, wouldn't it be really cool one day to work with him? But I was like this little guy with with nothing. And Jesper already has a crazy following and reputation in the industry, and so I honestly didn't think that I could reach that level to be able to work with him. But you know what? It's kind of like a snowball effect. So like you start small. So you start working with
relate.
You start working with smaller makers. And then I don't want to say smaller makers, but you know what I mean, like makers that are just starting out. And then you kind of you get an introduction from that maker to other makers, and then you build that reputation. You have a successful project with them, and then they're like, hey, I know 3 other makers who are also doing amazing stuff. And then so I get an intro, and then we just kind of work our way up, and then now we're at the point where we can pretty much work with anybody that we want to, as long as it fits their model in terms of like what they actually want to do with their brand, with these makers' brands. And so, I mean, we're in a really fortunate place now where people reach out to us all the time, brands, makers, and like now we're at the point where we don't want it. Like we're kind of like we need to maintain our quality. And so we're kind of like being really strict about who we want to work with now, because, we want to make sure that our reputation is on the line whenever each week when we do gear drops, like we're only good as our last gear drop is the way I think about it. And so like, if we have a bad gear drop, then at that point people are going to think, okay, like Urban EDC is kind of, it's on the decline. It's going downhill. And so like that is what we want to avoid. And so, my goal is that with each drop should be improving upon each other from the previous one, to the point where the people, I mean, our audience and customers, they basically, my goal is that they they're going just crazy over this stuff, and they shop only through us. Right. So, that's just step by step. You kind of get introduced to other makers, and then you build a reputation. But in the beginning, it was very challenging.
Oh yeah, I can relate. I always view it from the side. Sometimes you have to take a risk, right? So as I started my podcast in last year, January 23, 2023. I never have dreamed of speaking or talking to you, right? So at some point I thought, okay, I have to take a risk and just ask someone if he wants to do an interview. And so, as you said, I started with those smaller brands who just started out, and then everything came into motion, right? So and then the interviews with Jens Anso, and now you, and everything is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, if you can say so, right? Jens Anso is already a huge name in the industry, and for me it's always a pleasure and an honor, because I'm also an enthusiast, right? This is also a hobby for me. And then being able to talk to guys like you, who, for me, it has always been Urban EDC Supply. Homepage, knife, that's it. And now it's a face, a person behind the name, the brand, and it's just amazing, right? If everything comes to fruition. Yeah,
I appreciate that, Tim. It's always amazing to hear from the community like yourself and others who I meet at these shows, also like Blade Show, and it's just when people come up to me and say, "Oh, you're you're behind Urban EDC," it's like I can see the excitement, and that I mean, honestly, that feeling it's a really good feeling, and so I appreciate that.
Yeah, sure, of course. So, what's the meaning behind your logo? If I take a look at the Hightex coin you made, so there's a logo with a Seigaiha pattern. Sorry if I'm butchering this name right now.
That's correct.
And then I see something like a watch. What is it?
It's a compass.
It's a compass. Okay, all right. Oh yeah, sure, makes sense. Yeah.
So the story behind the logo is when we first launched the original the compass logo, we had a different version of the logo, and we wanted to keep it really simple, minimalistic. And so I know that a lot of EDC people, they like the whole like the pirate theme, and they want to go really like I don't know, like very like themed. Like they like to see a lot of like crazy details of like intricate details. But like I don't know, we just wanted to keep the logo clean because it's like very minimalistic. And to be honest, Urban EDC is a reflection of me. It's my personality, right? And so I'm pretty minimalistic. I like clean designs, and so I wanted to keep the logo clean, and also like I feel like that separates us a little bit from other companies that are like a little more, I don't know, aggressive with their logo, or and so honestly, like, so we had the Compass logo, and then we did a modernization of the Compass logo 2 years ago. So we worked with a designer to make it a little more modern. And then, so we had that new Compass logo, which again was very simple. And actually, you know what? I have I can show you a camera here.
That's the same logo. It was on the first batch of F5.5s, right?
Yeah. So it's just a very plain, simple Compass logo. And then with the circle of the compass, we discovered that this pattern that we've been using, that's very popular, and it's kind of like, I don't know, like our reputation now, and people recognize that pattern as like the Urban EDC pattern.
100%, yeah, definitely.
Which, by the way, it's not, we're not staking claim to that pattern, obviously. It's an old Japanese traditional pattern.
Yeah.
But it's kind of cool to see people, when someone posts, like, for example, like the Demko. The Demkos posted their 80/20 knife with, they had lasered the Seigaiha pattern on the knife, and they posted it. And that post went crazy. It got like 700, 800 likes on that post. And someone tagged and was like, "Oh, Urban EDC collab," and they had never reached out to us. And and so I actually like screenshotted that, and I emailed Demko, and they were up to doing a collab on that exact configuration. So I was able to convince them
awesome.
that we're going to,
That's sick.
yeah, we're gonna do these, and it's kind of a collaboration. And so, like you were asking earlier, how we get these collaborations, like it's super random. Like that was a very like, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't, there's no formula. You just kind of like take your chances, and you get them sometimes, and you don't get them sometimes, but you just,
Yeah.
it's super random.
Yeah. So just like you said, when I see the Seigaiha pattern on anything, I always resemble it with Urban EDC. And that's so branded into my mind, I just can't ignore it. So that's I can totally relate to the Demco post, and it's awesome when such a random post becomes such an awesome collaboration, right?
Yeah. And by the way, I don't think people know that that's happening. And so, for those of you who are listening, that might be, we're dropping some Demco 8020s, which are very popular and really hot.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. But, real quick, I want to mention the Seigaiha pattern also symbolizes good luck and fortune.
Okay.
And this sense of like resilience. The waves are, it sometimes it's very, like crashes very hard, but then sometimes it's very calm. And so like, it's like these things in life that we can't really control. And so the wave symbolizes like, let's just get through it, like ride the wave. And so I just love the symbolism of that pattern also.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of become, it's this theme of like, luck, and being good fortune. And we're kind of playing with that more now. And so we've actually been doing a lot more with, I don't know if you've seen there's like a lucky duck lanyard bead that we released.
Oh yeah, that one is so awesome.
Yeah. So that one, I had no clue that people were obsessed with lucky duck stuff, but that sold out literally in like 10 seconds. And we had so many people upset about missing out. I mean, we're doing another batch. But
awesome.
So the theme is like the lucky duck. And so feeling lucky, having this sense of like gratitude and like just, everyone has tough days, but just feel grateful for what you have. Like that's encompassed in the Seigaiha pattern. And so that's why I really love that pattern, because I just love, water and waves for me is just such a powerful, I don't know, symbol of living. And so, yeah, I mean, that's kind of the long story of why, we have the pattern and why it just resonates with me so much.
Now that I know the meaning behind the pattern, it just became in my head, okay, I need something with that pattern, because I don't know if I have something out of my head. I don't. So it's I always love when an EDC item or the brand or the branding or something on the item has a special meaning. For example, my most carried coin by a ton is the Stay the Course coin from Ricky of Erling EDC. Just because the meaning of the coin resonates with me so much. And with that, the Seigaiha pattern, just these two combined is just, I don't know, it's got me moving.
Yeah. It's definitely a good reminder for all of us to just appreciate little things in life and feel like, I mean, you are lucky, in a lot of ways. I mean, it's all about perspective, right? So it's a good reminder for myself too. So
exactly, right? If you happen to have luck, enjoy it, but don't get drowned in bad luck, right? So
yeah, exactly.
Just keep pushing on. Don't let yourself get drowned by something bad happening, and just push through.
Push through, and luck, tide will turn again, and
Exactly.
and so just gotta keep moving. Yeah.
So now we have your logo, how everything started, and I have always known you as Urban EDC Supply. And then as we mailed back and forth, you said, okay, we are changing from Urban EDC Supply to Urban EDC. So
That's right.
implicates what?
Yeah, this I'm so glad you asked this, because there's a lot of not confusion, but people, I feel like it's important to point this out. So I would say Urban EDC Supply was kind of like version 1.0 of our shop. And that is, we are a retailer for things that you can't find anywhere else. All the best EDC gear in one place, working with other makers. Now, what we discovered is that now we can actually take that one step further and bring new designs, like our F5.5 collaboration with the Esper Voxnaes. Like, we can bring new designs onto the market, under our brand. And those are, that's kind of the direction that we're going in more towards. So, like, instead of being just a retailer of bringing stuff in from other makers, we want to be the creator of new products that are not on the market, through the creativity of the community. And so by producing our own gear, the supply aspect felt like that a little bit had the sense of like, we're more of a retailer. But now with just Urban EDC, I feel like we're kind of stepping beyond that, and now we're like a brand. Like, we are Urban EDC, the brand.
Yeah.
And then I want to make one more point, which is obviously the term Urban EDC on its own, it can be used to describe everyday carry that you carry in cities. Urban EDC, right? And so to further distinguish that, we've trademarked the term Urban EDC. And so, like, it's been registered actually since day one of when we began Urban EDC. Okay. So since 2015, when we launched the company, Urban EDC has been trademarked. But recently I just like, I don't know, I just feel like a lot of, there's all these like YouTube videos that are like, what's in my Urban EDC? And like, things like that. And like, I totally understand it. Like, it's city carry, city everyday carry, right? And so I totally get that. But like, I wanted to distinguish us from that use of that terminology and concept to Urban EDC, the brand. And so that's why now we've been using more of the registered trademark symbol after Urban EDC to show people that, this is the brand, not the terminology of, city everyday carry. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, sure. It does. It does. Absolutely. So now Urban EDC Supply, just as you said, always was in my mind a shop, right? If I want to buy a knife, I go to Urban EDC Supply, check it, if you have it, and then everything's done for me. And now, if you guys are there, open or go to urbanedc.com and just open the page. You already see Urban EDC Miso, right, in collaboration with Everyday Minimalist, right? And then the Stray Talk with Jared Oza and all that stuff. And that's just, you come onto the homepage and you see it's a brand. It's not only a shop. It's a shop, of course. You also have products that are not Urban EDC, but there are also knives you are just getting with your name on it.
That's correct. Yeah. So we are not stopping the collaborations that we're doing with other makers. And so if you're a maker, we're not saying, hey, we are producing our own stuff now, we're no longer working with you. That is not what we're doing. We'd love to work with every maker that we could, and but we would want to do it very intentionally. And so, for example, we started working with. So we've been a retailer for Nice Guy Machine Co. Archie. I don't know if you're familiar with Nice Guy. Yep. Awesome guy. Amazing titanium gear, pry bars, and and so we've been just getting his pry bars in as a reseller. But
awesome.
In the last 2 months, I approached Archie and said, "Hey, like we're changing directions a little bit here into what I explained to you, as more of the brand, and so we want to do a collaboration. Like, can we do something special together? And we can use the Seigaiha pattern as kind of the bridge. And so we're actually doing a pry bar made by Nice Guy Machine Co. with a Seigaiha pattern, and he's never done this for anybody. And so I just emailed him, and we exchanged emails yesterday, and he told me that it took him way longer than he anticipated, because like he made each line of the wave of the Seigaiha like a different height, and so there's like this tactile feeling when you're using the pry bar.
Wow.
That's all awesome. These details that are just it's sick. And so that's the direction that we're going in. So makers, awesome. We are no longer just we don't want to just bring in stuff that they have off the shelf. We want to do something extra and do something a little more unique and innovative with the products that they have. And so that's definitely so basically exclusives with other makers we're continuing to do. That's not changing. And then our own gear that we're producing, that we're going to do a heavier push on. So those kind of two things are our big focus.
Yeah, as you mentioned, this bit extra, a few days ago, I don't know if it was on your Instagram page or on the Instagram page of Limitless Engraver, the coin you made. Mm-hmm. That's, for me, the definition of what you just said, right? Just the bit extra. This coin is just this bit extra, because it's so special, right? It just looks phenomenal. And for me, that's, as I listen to you, and on my second screen, I have your homepage open, and the coin popped off, and I thought, oh yeah, that matches.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely check out. You have a newsletter, right?
Yep. So I obviously the Urban EDC has a newsletter, which I write, and so we have the Urban EDC newsletter, and then I also have my own personal newsletter where I share more of the business side of things, but also just my journey as a creator like yourself. Like I have a podcast, right? And so that is on my personal, which is firstclassfounders.com/newsletter. That's the newsletter.
Of course, all the links to the homepages and all the stuff you will find in the description of this episode. And if you want to stay on track, definitely check out the newsletters. And I think you have also, I don't know how they call it, the chat room on Instagram, Never Miss a Drop. Yes,
that is a broadcast channel.
Broadcast channel. That's it.
Yeah, that is. That's also an experiment that I wanted to see, test and see what happens. And we used to the story behind that is that Instagram, surprise, they love promoting knife makers and knife brands.
Oh yeah, totally.
They love it. They absolutely love it. And so they are, their algorithm, they by the way, everyone knows we're joking here. So they don't show anything to any, it's just like there's nothing there. Like you post and then it's like no one sees it. And so we decided, hey, you know what? Let's create a channel, a broadcast channel. It's like you mentioned, it's kind of like a chat room. And it's kind of like a DM. So like when you join that chat room, anything that I post in there gets sent to your DMs. And so the whole idea was that, instead of relying on this Instagram algorithm to consistently, reliably deliver drop messages, like, notifications on drops, I'm thinking, wait, why don't we just create this channel and just DM people when we have drops? And so that's the whole concept behind the Never Miss a Drop broadcast channel. And people have been really loving it. And I've also done some behind the scenes stuff in there too. It's I think I'm going to do more of that in there, just to get feedback about different things. And it's been fun, and I think people enjoy it as well.
I definitely think so, because just as we said in the intro, transparency is key, right? So the more now we talked about it before we hit the record button, right? For me, as I told you, transparency is key. And the more transparent the brand is, the easier I can connect with the brand. And then these details you share, never miss a drop, maybe some behind the scenes stuff, that's always something I as a customer enjoy. So if you are, you guys out there, feel free to check it out. Never miss a drop. You can take it by word. You will never miss a drop. Now I'm kind of lost right now. What is the most challenging parts in creating these products and collaborations?
I would say the biggest challenge that I have is gauging demand for products. And the reason why I say this is because, we do some pre-orders. And the reason why we do pre-orders is to match the demand for a knife or a new product with the supply of people who are wanting it. And so it's kind of like, we match supply and demand perfectly, and it's way more efficient than doing a run of a large run of knives, and then we release it, and like we overproduce a knife, and we don't have, we can't sell through it, and so it's now sitting on our shelves. It's taking up space, and it's it's just sitting there, not doing much, and so what's funny is when we do pre-orders, people will complain that, it's, why do pre-orders? Like, why don't they just front the money? Like, why do they want us to front the money for their business projects? Like, that shouldn't be happening. Like, we get those kinds of comments. I mean, just a couple of them, not a lot.
Yeah.
But then the flip side is that when we do a drop and it sells out, and then within a minute, 2 minutes, then we're on the other side of that, where it's like, what, you guys suck. Like, you're like, sending them to VIPs, and you didn't drop any. Like, did you even have them? Like, these kinds of comments. And so, like,
they're always
we've got
those
both
people,
ends of the spectrum. Always those people. And so, I'm sitting here, and remember, like, this is me. Like, when I get those messages, I'm the one reading them. It's there's not a huge team. It's me. And so, what's funny is I've actually DM'd those people, and they've actually become huge fans of the brand, because I explained to them, just as I'm explaining to you now, it's not easy to gauge demand. And then I also just try to help them out as much as possible. So if they miss out on something, I'll tell them, hey, we're going to bring them back. And when they do, I will make sure that you're taken care of and you can get one, like things like that. And so I would say inventory gauging is probably the hardest thing to do. And so some people, when it sells out like that, they've actually told me, like, hey, have you thought about doing pre-orders? And I'm like, yeah, I have. And we do pre-orders, but then people complain that we shouldn't have pre-orders. And so it's like, that is, in my opinion, it's kind of a difficult thing. But you know what? It's all part of the game, and I'm here to learn, and And so I'm all for it. So
Yeah, just like I said, no? There are always those kind of people. In everything you do, there's always that one guy who has something to tell you, right?
yeah,
So that's basically we as Germans, we are kind of known for that, right? If you are going for a walk and you see a beautiful landscape, there's always the the weather isn't good or something, right? So we Germans always can see something negative in even the most beautiful things, and that just hits it, right? So I can
I
absolutely
I
relate because I am a German.
I don't. You know what? I don't think it's a German thing. I think a lot of Americans would do the same thing. So
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, there are always
it's like a
those people, and that can be
human thing.
anybody, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. So beside the most challenging, what's the most fun part in doing this brand?
This question is really interesting for me because I think the answer to that question has evolved a lot since I began. And
Okay.
so when I first started the company back in 2015, I think it was just really cool to even be able to bring in this gear that literally, like, I feel like I have something illegal. Like literally, like I would get a batch of like 20, you know, high end bottle openers that are like $300 each,
Mm-hmm.
and literally like you can't buy them. Like I know it's gonna sell out in like 2 seconds, but I'm there on the table. I've got all 20 laid out. And I'm just like looking at them, inspecting them, and just being like, wow, like how cool is it to be in the situation where I can look at all of this gear, without the pressure of getting cart sniped or website crashing and not being able to get one. Like it's like I have access to all of this gear,
Yeah.
and it's just so cool to be able to check out all the gear that comes through the shop. Um,
Yeah.
and so that was kind of the initial, part of my favorite part of running Urban EDC. But then now I think it's kind of shifted a little more towards, when we work with makers on our production knives, like the F5.5.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen a lot of knives come through, right? I've probably handled, uh, seen, and like played around with over, 1,000, maybe even like above thousands at this point. And so what's really fun now is when I get a design from a knife maker, and I would make suggestions. Again, it's their design, and I'm not here. And if they have every right to say I don't agree with this, or it's not good. But I
Mm-hmm.
I would make a suggestion about certain things about their knife design that they're doing with us, and I can see their kind of gears turning, and then they'll say, you know what, you're right. I think that would actually improve the knife in some capacity, whether it's the lines of the blade, or the
Mm-hmm.
functionality of it, or whatever it is. Like they'll actually say, you know what, I think that's better. Let's go with that. And so it's just really cool for me when I'm working with a knife maker and who is open to these changes. By the way, that I can have an impact, and actually collaborate with knife designers that are like world renowned. And like it's crazy to me that I have opinions about a knife that they design, and like I said, these guys are top of the game, like top tier knife designers.
Oh
Yet
yeah.
when I suggest something to them, we'll go back and forth, and then sometimes they'll say, "You're right," like that would improve the knife. And so we would make it, that my improvements would go into a knife. And like, so when a knife gets released now, it's like, wow, like I made some of these updates, to the knife, and it's just, I don't know, it's like a really cool feeling now, where I feel like I'm just part of this process of creation along with the designer, who are world-class designers, right? So I would say that gives me a lot of joy these days when I work with on these projects.
Usually I ask the question, is this a dream come true for you? But now, since I interviewed Jens Anso, he said, oh yeah, that's a tough one. He said then it's an ever evolving dream. And that hits the spot, right? Just like you said, it's at the beginning it was this, now it's this, and everything keeps changing, evolving, like the brand itself, right?
Yeah, and you know why it's evolving is I'm evolving as a person. And so, my perspective on the world is way different now than it was 7 months ago. Because 7 months ago, I had my son, my first newborn son. So my perspective on life is way different now than it was even 7 months ago. And so, it's kind of an interesting thing where we all just evolve and change over time. And, we kind of, we appreciate different things. We have different goals and values evolve. And I feel like, with this journey that I'm on with Urban EDC, it's been 9 years now. Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely true. I mean, I get joy out of doing things that are way different than when we first launched. And I feel like that's just because of my own evolution as a person, as an entrepreneur. Yeah, so that's spot on.
Let's talk about the product that embodies Urban EDC the most. Personally, for me, it's the F5.5. Just because that's the first product I got into my own hands that had the branding Urban EDC, right? What's it for you?
The product, right? Honestly, I would say the F5.5 is a good. That is honestly, like, I would say it's got to be that. And I think you hit the nail on the head. That knife, thanks to Jesper, that knife brought us into a new era of Urban EDC. And, as we mentioned earlier about dropping the supply name, like, that knife was the one that kickstarted this evolution into becoming our own brand. And that, I mean, honestly, it encompasses so much of our past, present, and future, because, we have more variations dropping. Like, you got the blasted copper version with Magna Cut. And that's dropping in a couple weeks, but you got to handle it early, Tim.
It handles just phenomenal. I mean, I had the knife previously, but the copper gives it this amount of weight that I absolutely enjoy. On every other knife, I love the titanium, the micarta, all the lightweight stuff. And the F5.5 gets, for me personally, gets better with heavier handle materials. It may sound a bit weird, but because it's designed like this, and you have a better purchase inside your hand of the knife, right? So that just as we wrote about it, I told you, okay, I might change complete directions and try something totally new. I would love the copper version. And then it arrived, and I was like, damn, 100% right decision.
So what's funny that you say that, because so we've also done a bronze version, and that one was also pretty hefty.
Oh yeah.
And so the copper and the bronze versions, they fit really well in the hand. And what's funny about that is because of the weight distribution. And by the way, the f5.5 has pretty thick blade stock, so it's a thicker blade than usual. And so it's when you hold it in your hand, the heaviness of the bronze and the copper handles actually balances out the weight of the thick stock blade steel very well. And so it actually feels like when you're holding the knife with the heavier material, and Jesper is a genius at ergonomics, but it actually feels more like the knife is gripping your hand versus you gripping the knife, which sounds kind of crazy and nuts, but it just kind of like sits in your hand differently than a lighter material knife like micarta or titanium, like you mentioned.
100%, yes. Yeah, definitely. So this coming Wednesday, that should be let me check real quick, the 13th. You are, if I'm not mistaken, you are dropping the titanium version of the new f5.5 stonewash Magna Cut blades, stonewash titanium handles at 12 p.m. PT, and that is 9 hours behind us, right? So 9, right? Now.
Right.
Oh, wait a second. Now I have maths.
It is 9 hours.
Yeah, 9 hours. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
I think
it
it is
should
9
be
hours.
9 p.m. CET.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I think so. and we're actually dropping a smaller batch of marbled carbon fiber with a hand rubbed Magna Cut.
Yeah.
And so that one is a little more of like a dressy, like, you know, gentleman's
the fancy
elegant,
dancy version, as I like
fancier.
to call it.
Yeah. So if you're going to, you know, go to a wedding or something, like that version is gonna look really good. So we're dropping a small batch of those along with the stonewash titanium stonewash Magna Cut version.
And like everyone else, you are upgrading the steel. Before that, you met such a wide variety of f5.5s about the past years. But if I have it right, it was M390 and
That's
LMAX,
correct.
right?
Yeah, the LMAX was quite rare. It was only for a pre-order for a couple of variations. Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay. Oh, then I had a pretty rare one. I think it was the one with the antique bronze.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
The anchor stamp. And
anchor
that
stamp,
one had LMAX, right?
That one, I think that one did have LMAX, and that one, the anchor stamp one is quite sought after because we only do it. So bronze is the only material we've done the anchor stamp for, but then we've also now done it with copper. And so the copper version and the bronze versions have the anchor stamp, which is very popular. And so
I love this tiny, tiny detail, and I enjoy it. It doesn't always have to be big and bright. Sometimes it can be tiny and it's magnificent.
Yeah, no, it's people love it.
So November 13th, 12 p.m. PT, 9 p.m. CET, f5.5, Magna Cut, stonewash, titanium, and blade, hand rubbed, Magna Cut blade, and carbon. Right?
That's right.
Awesome. Yeah, for everyone out there who doesn't or didn't have the pleasure yet to handle an f5.5, you have to. It's the one knife. I had it a bunch of times, but I was always stupid enough to sell it again, and so now this has become a staple of my collection just the day before it arrived already, because it's such an amazing knife. Yeah, like you said,
one thing I
Jesper
do want
designed it. Yeah, sure, go ahead.
People ask why it's named f5.5. And it's because, and so actually looking back at it, I don't know if it was the best naming convention, just because letter, number, point, number is not traditionally an easy thing to say or visualize.
Could be blade length, could be overall length, could be...
exactly. A lot of confusion there. But the reason why we chose it at that time was because Jesper's customs are all in the F number, arrangement. And so the F5 is his custom knife that the F5.5 was based on.
Okay.
But the F5, so most of Jesper's designs go into production through a larger company, but the F5 never made it into production for whatever reason. And so we decided to bring that to life. And actually, Jesper redesigned the F5, which is a little bit of a bigger knife. And so he redesigned the F5 to maybe a little bit smaller, 2.7 inches versus over 3 inches. And then also he redesigned the finger choil part of the knife, where it became really easy to be able to choke up on to, the finger choil to be able to do more precision cutting work. And so those, and obviously he changed other things for it as well. But in my mind, I just feel like the F5.5 made the small refinements. It just perfected the original F5 model that Jesper did customs on way back in the day. Probably like 3, 4, or 5 years ago, or 6 years ago.
Okay. Yeah.
And so that was the origin of the F5.5 it's based on Jesper's custom F5 model that never made it into a production model. And so we kind of reimagined it as a little bit of a smaller blade and named it F5.5.
And with this size, it's EDC perfection for me, at least.
Yes.
Right? Because if it's folded in, if it's closed, it's small and disappears in the pocket. Well, besides the weight of the copper, right?
Yeah.
But if you unfold it, the finger choil just makes it this big that it fits perfectly into your hand, and you have a big enough knife or sharpened edge to use for a huge variety of tasks, right? And that just gets rounded up, basically, or word if you take the word seriously, with the sheepsfoot blade, right?
Totally.
So absolute EDC perfection, and that resembles with your name, right? Urban EDC, and this is EDC perfection. So F5.5 definitely for me and for you as well, the embodiment of a product for Urban EDC.
Yeah, no, I'm so happy with the way it turned out. And I'm so grateful for Jesper to work with us on this design. I just feel like it's just been awesome to work with him. And by the way, we have something special coming up with the F5.5, which I will not reveal on this podcast. But it's a little early. That's why. But we've got something going on. And so
stay tuned, guys.
Stay tuned. There's gonna be some updates to that knife, and I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, that got me stoked right now myself. Yeah. Awesome. So what is your personal highlight in the history of Urban EDC?
Personal highlight. I think really it's being able to create this community that
Mm-hmm.
we've been able to create through Urban EDC. And I don't know, it's like it's kind of taken on a life on its own. And so I'm just, it's just been amazing to see people connect through the gear, all sorts of backgrounds, diverse backgrounds, and, you know, just people nerding out about knife models and blades. Like, it's just like a crazy thing to see. And I'm so glad that I'm able to be a part of that. Right. So
Mm.
that I would say that's probably it.
Came for the knife, stayed for the people, right?
Exactly.
As I heard that one for the first time, it hit the nail on the head. Right? It's just, it's that what it's all about. This year we had the GDC convention, the German Daily Carry Convention, which I'm a part of in the organization team, and there I had I did a small podcast. I just walked around the area and asked people, "What's EDC for you?" And they always said, "Yeah, it's the gear, but in the core of it, it's the people, right? Just the community, the talks you get, just the intimacy of it, right? It's just a whole big family. At least it feels like." And
Exactly.
so came for the knife, stayed for the people.
Totally.
To round this interview up, Urban EDC in 3 words.
I'll give you one here. I would say that the best way to describe the brand is it's refined yet rugged. And so what I mean by that is that as we mentioned earlier, like I'm a little bit more of a minimalist, refined type of person.
Mm-hmm.
But I appreciate the ability of something that lasts forever. Like stuff not breaking down. It just ages really well and looks better as you use it. And I feel like that part of that's the ruggedness of it. And so it's almost like when you get something in for the first time, like when you get a brand new knife from us, you almost don't want to use it because it's so beautiful and so, I don't know, like it's just perfection, right?
Yeah.
And so that's like the refined element of it. But then once you start using it and you get over the whole like, oh, there's the first scratch, like, you get over that, you'll soon realize that years later, that knife still functions just as good as it was when you first opened the box. But now it's got all these marks and, it's got the patina of your hand and the usage, and it's just got the years of you infused into that knife. And I feel like the ruggedness and the ability, the durableness of that item to be able to do that and to carry that legacy with you all throughout the years, like that is what we are about, and that is what I'm trying to create for the brand is, beautiful art that's also extremely functional and that won't wear you down or wear out eventually, right? So it's this like delicate balance of something that's so beautiful that you don't want to use it, yet when you do start using it, it will last forever. And so that's kind of the essence of Urban EDC.
Refined yet rugged. Yeah. Yeah. If you use it, the F5.5 in copper, since it arrived, I played the whole day with it. And now the copper already starts getting patina. And now this knife is becoming my knife. right?
Exactly.
It's becoming, just like you said, the use of it, everything I do with it becomes part of it. And before it arrived here, it was an f5.5. Now it's becoming my f5.5, right? Maybe a small difference. For me, it's a huge difference. But that's with all my knives. I always need to use them. Sometimes I drop them. Even the most expensive stuff, I drop it, and the first second is like, oh shit. And then when I pick it up and there's a dent in the titanium or something, I'm a little bit sad. And then the second after that, oh yeah, it's more mine now. It's fine. It's getting used, so whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, Young-So, it was an honor to have you here. Real pleasure. I enjoyed it. We had a pretty long talk now for about an hour and 5 minutes. It was a joy.
Tim, thanks so much for having me. This is actually, I don't do a lot of these interviews. And so I do a lot of business related interviews and podcasts.
Yeah.
But I don't do a lot of EDC specific interviews. And I really enjoyed it. And I feel like
Thank you.
You brought out a lot of ideas and thoughts that I didn't even know I had before this conversation. And so,
okay, then I did a good job.
You did a good. The interviewer did an amazing job when the guest tells you that they discover something about themselves that they didn't know before. And so,
yeah. Awesome.
Great job,
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, like I said, the pleasure is mine. I really looking forward to working with you. For you out there, check the homepages, check the podcast, check the Instagram pages, the broadcast channel, and of course, most important, the broadcast channel, because this coming Wednesday is dropping the f5.5 in the titanium and CF version. Don't miss on that. It's a magnificent knife. And now I wish you all the best. Have a good day. Don't let your head hang down for too long. Keep pushing through. Cheers. Have a good one. Bye-bye.